with Newsfeed. Well, let's pick up with that point that Ayabonga was making just a moment ago, talking about the problems that government has had getting money into people's bank accounts. We're talking about grants, the SASSA grants, the basic income grants that people have been talking about, or the social distress of relief grant. Well, on the last day of Youth Month, which is today, the Department of Women, Youth and People Living with Disabilities is suggesting that young people should get some kind of basic income grant. You will know that even before the lockdown, more than half of our young people were not working and were not studying. Dr. Bernice Hlakala is the Acting Chief Director in the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. She joins us now. Dr. Hlakala, thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon. In your documents you talk about a grant, a basic income grant essentially for young people. What kind of proposal are you making here?
We are actually proposing that, as you may all be aware, that, young people are actually hit hard, mainly by many challenges, and one of the key challenges that they are faced with is the issue of unemployment. We know that, the majority of our youth, even prior to COVID-19, they were excluded from the labor market, and many were unable to actually gain access because of our jobless growth. So in that regard, one of the key proposals which comes from young people and also from a wide range of stakeholders is that, we should actually introduce a basic income grant for young people. And in that regard, we would like to actually provide basic economic security for every young person, given that many don't have any form of income. And, the reason for doing that is that if young people do not have any form of income, they are unable to access many opportunities that can be available for them, be it, searching for employment, be it training opportunities that can actually unlock, opportunity to get employed.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sure that the moment you bring this up, older people might say, well, it's not just younger people who need help. Would you oppose a basic income grant for everybody, or do you think young people need specific help here?
I beg your pardon?
Would you oppose a basic income grant for everybody, or do you think the younger people need specific help here, and that's why they need a basic income grant, but not everybody else?
Well, we are proposing, as you know, that young people actually form the majority of the population. More than a third of the population are actually young people. And if we boost, the economic situation of our youth, they will be able to be contributing members of the economy. They will then, participate in the economy and help the economy to grow and then create even more jobs. So, that is actually the reason why we are proposing that, young people should be the ones to be targeted for the basic income grant. And, I cannot, advocate for other target groups, mainly, but then, if we look at our economic situation, given that we are currently facing a huge economic strain, it may not be possible to actually cover everyone. That is why we are actually targeting young people.
Okay, we always talk about jobs and young people, and I mean correctly. I started off by saying that more than half of our young people aren't working at the moment. They weren't even before the lockdown. You talk about helping them into jobs, but the problem is that the jobs don't really exist. What do we need to do? I mean, in your documents, again, you talk about restructuring the economy. What kind of restructuring would you like to see?
One other strategy that we are actually proposing in the National Youth Policy is that we need to actually begin focusing much more on entrepreneurship as one of the strategies, because we have realized that there is low entrepreneurial spirit in South Africa. Hence, we are actually encouraging that to get young people to become more, entrepreneurs. They will in turn be able to even employ other young people. So that is why we are saying that there is a need to actually relook at, how we can attract young people so that they can actually become part of, job creation.
Dr. Thakgala, I'm sorry, I think it would be quite difficult to argue there's no entrepreneurial spirit in South Africa. Everywhere you go, people are trying to start some kind of business. It's called hustling. And the reason that the businesses don't succeed in many cases is because of a lack of start-up capital, because of the structural inequality in our economy. In other words, people don't have enough money to start a proper business. When they do try to start a business, they often find that government regulations make it actually quite difficult. I don't think the lack of entrepreneurial spirit is the problem. I would say that the structure of our economy is the problem.
Yes, that is why we are talking about what I was referring to. I was saying that, we have got low entrepreneurial spirit in a sense that young people are not actually motivated to become entrepreneurs because of lack of funding, because of lack of support. So, we would like to actually make sure that we attract them by providing support in the form of finance, but then in addition by creating enabling a policy environment where they can actually flourish. So we would like to actually create an enabling environment for our young people.
Is there a problem with the education system? I mean, we know, for example, that half of the people who start grade 1 don't actually get into matric. I mean, there are clearly huge problems there. I mean, that must play a role in the problems that young people are having. If you don't get a matric, it's actually quite difficult to find any kind of job in the formal sector, and then there's only limited space in the informal sector.
Yes, even our education, there is actually a problem with our education system, because you find that young people continue to be trained, continue to be educated in areas where they would eventually not get employment. So there is a need to actually match the skills that is available with the demand for jobs. That is why in our policy we are emphasizing that we need to look at areas where we have got high absorption capacity for our young people. For an example, we are advocating that there should be skills training in areas of the fourth industrial revolution. We must train young people in new jobs such as robotics, artificial intelligence. But then we must also look at other areas such as your creative industries. We must also look at other areas such as agriculture, mining. So we need to actually make sure that whatever training and education that we are giving to our youth, we are preparing them for them to actually be ready and enter the job market. Because if we just train without having in mind what are the skills that are in demand, it is what actually creates a problem where we end up with many youth being trained, qualified, but then without any job opportunities.
Dr. Thakgala, I would like to sort of continue the conversation you're having around the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, obviously vital for young people, vital for everybody, really. Would your department perhaps support some kind of measure to make mobile phone data cheaper, to try and make sure that everybody in the country has access to broadband internet, proper high-speed internet? I mean, that could change the game, especially for young people. I mean, I'm sure you know young people are better on their phones than I am.
Certainly. I mean, if young people don't have, access to data, then it will mean that they are being excluded. They will not be able to participate either in the economy or even in decision making. They will not even be able to search for jobs. So that is why, we are actually in support of young people that, they should, be able to gain, access to data.